The storm howled through the small Alaskan town, shaking the trees and piling thick snow against the houses. It was the coldest night of the season. Temperatures had plummeted to nearly minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, a death sentence for anyone left unprotected outside. Inside a cozy wooden cabin at the edge of the forest, the Miller family was fast asleep. Jacob Miller, his wife Emily, and their 8-year-old son Noah had spent the day preparing for the blizzard. Firewood stacked high, hot cocoa still steaming in cups on the counter, and thick blankets draped over the couch. Everything was ready for a long, frigid night. But just past midnight, a faint scratching sound echoed through the stillness of the house. At first it was soft, almost imperceptible beneath the roaring wind. Then it grew stronger, desperate, a weak, frantic scraping against the front door. Emily stirred first, waking up to the eerie noise. She nudged Jacob. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Jacob groaned, rubbing his face. "It's just the wind, Em. Go back to sleep." But then came a soft whimper, so faint it could almost be imagined. Noah, lying in his bed, had heard it too. "Mom? Dad?" his small voice called. "I think something's outside." The scratching grew more insistent. Jacob sighed, pulling on his thick robe and slippers. As he reached the door, a gust of wind sent a draft through the cracks. He hesitated for a moment before unlatching the lock and swinging the door open. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. A large husky, coated in ice and snow, stood on their porch, his fur matted with frost. His legs trembled violently, and his breath came in short, painful gasps. His deep blue eyes locked onto Jacob's as if pleading for help. "Oh my God!" Emily gasped, rushing to Jacob's side. The husky took a weak step forward, then collapsed onto the wooden porch. Jacob snapped into action. He scooped up the half-frozen dog, cradling him against his chest as he rushed inside. "Close the door," he barked. Noah ran forward, eyes wide. "Is he okay?" "We need to warm him up," Emily said, already grabbing blankets and towels. They laid the husky by the fireplace, gently wrapping him in warmth. Jacob rubbed his fur, trying to bring life back into his frozen body. His nose was raw, his paws cracked, and his breathing was shallow. For several long minutes, the husky didn't move. Noah knelt beside him, stroking his head. "Please don't die," he whispered. Then the husky's eyes fluttered open. A low whimper escaped his throat. "He's alive," Emily exhaled in relief. But as she moved to check his paws, she noticed something that sent a chill down her spine. A faint, dried-up trail of blood clung to his fur, and it wasn't his. Emily and Jacob exchanged nervous glances. "This dog came from somewhere," Jacob murmured. "And if there's blood—" The husky tried to lift his head, but he was too weak. Instead, he let out a faint, strained howl. Noah gasped. "He's trying to tell us something." Jacob nodded, his instincts kicking in. "We need to find out where he came from." Emily hesitated. "Jacob, it's a blizzard out there. If someone's in trouble, we should call for help, not go out in that storm." But Jacob was already pulling on his boots and winter coat. He turned to Noah. "Buddy, stay inside with your mom. Keep the husky warm." Noah clutched the dog protectively. "Be careful, Dad." With a final look at his family, Jacob stepped into the roaring storm. The cold bit into Jacob's skin like needles, even through his heavy coat. The wind screamed around him, nearly knocking him off balance. But he pressed on, using a flashlight to scan the snow-covered ground. The husky had left a trail, deep paw prints barely visible beneath fresh snowfall. Jacob followed them cautiously, his heart pounding. Then he saw it. A second set of tracks, smaller, lighter, human footprints. Someone had been walking with the husky. But where were they now? Jacob picked up his pace, following the tracks deeper into the forest. The wind howled through the trees, making it nearly impossible to hear anything else. Then he spotted something in the distance, a dark shape half buried in the snow. Jacob's stomach twisted. He sprinted forward, brushing away the snow until he found a child. A little girl, no older than 5, lay motionless beneath the heavy snow. Her lips were blue, her small body curled in on itself. Jacob's breath caught as he scooped her into his arms, feeling for a pulse. It was faint, too faint. "Oh no, 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 no," he muttered, wrapping her tightly in his coat. He turned back toward the cabin, running as fast as the deep snow would allow. "Hold on, sweetheart," he whispered. "You're going to be okay." His legs burned, his lungs screamed, but he didn't stop until the warm glow of his cabin appeared through the storm. Emily opened the door just as Jacob burst in. "Jacob! Oh my God, who is she?" "I don't know," he gasped, laying the girl beside the husky, but she was out there, alone. Emily immediately grabbed blankets and started rubbing the girl's frozen limbs. "Noah, get some warm water and towels." The husky, now slightly stronger, crawled toward the girl and licked her face. A tiny, weak cough escaped her lips. "She's alive," Emily breathed. It took hours, but the girl finally opened her eyes. Weak but alive. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Luca," Jacob frowned. "Luca?" The husky perked up. The girl reached out a tiny hand and rested it on the dog's head. He saved me." Tears welled in Emily's eyes. "Where are your parents, sweetheart?" The little girl's face crumpled. "The car, it crashed. Mom, Dad, they didn't wake up." Jacob's throat tightened. "You were in a car crash?" She nodded. "Luca got me out. He kept me warm. Then he left to find help." Emily covered her mouth. The husky, Luca, had braved the deadly storm to find someone, to save his little human. And he had. Authorities later found the wreckage miles away. Sadly, the girl's parents hadn't survived the crash. But thanks to Luca's bravery, she had been saved. The Millers took her in until relatives could be located. During that time, she and Luca were inseparable. When the day came for her to leave, Noah hugged Luca tightly. "Will he go with her?" The little girl smiled. "He's my best friend, but maybe he has two families now." From that day on, Luca spent winters with the Millers and summers with the little girl. And every night, as snow fell softly outside, Luca would curl up by the fire, his job as a protector never truly over. Because heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear fur.